let's talk about what happened to the New Orleans Saints yesterday. That's where we have to start today's show because there was an exodus, Jake, almost unlike I'm sure if you're a true NFL beat writer or a true NFL historian, you can remember days like this. Since I've been kind of covering this team in a entertainment sense for the past 10 years, I've never seen a single day like this where you have 4 players all leaving basically the same position group. You had Shy Tuttle sign a 3-year, $19.5 million deal with the Carolina Panthers, $13 million guaranteed. Hell yeah, Shy Tuttle, get your money, man. You had Marcus Davenport get a 1-year, $13 million deal from the Minnesota Vikings. So you knew somebody was going to bet on Davenport's potential. There it is. It's a big 1-year deal. Don't let the door hit you on the way out on that one, I think. And then you had the Falcons and the Falcons, and they just continue to raid the New Orleans Saints in classic Saints-Falcons fashion to try to imitate some level of success they've had recently, which is a bold strategy by the Falcons given the direction the Saints are trending. But, not satisfied with getting Terry Fontenot and not satisfied with taking co-defense coordinator Ryan Nielsen to be their defense coordinator. Ryan Nielsen has also said, well, I want a couple of guys from my old room, as David Onyemata signs a 3-year, $35 million deal with $24.5 guaranteed over the first 2 years. And Caden Ellis, who was a big breakout star last year, signs a 3-year, $21.5 million deal with $11 million guaranteed, which, shout out Caden Ellis. Pretty badass for a 7th-round pick out of Idaho to now in his second contract get $21 million with $11 million guaranteed. Arguably, both those guys coming in slightly above where they would have slotted from a pure market value kind of standpoint. But what it means now, Jake, if you thought that the Saints needed a D lineman before in this upcoming draft, it is now clearer than ever that you need more.
Nice work by you going past the Idaho part, so I couldn't pop off these jokes, these old middle school jokes. Nice job by you. Second part of that is you're exactly right. Like, now you know exactly what you need in the draft. Now, you already were trending in that direction anyways, and you knew you were probably going to lose the players that you just listed there. Marcus Davenport, it is what it is. Like, you had a flash, not flashes, you had a flash, but you weren't on the field enough to be consistent. And so that's always going to be one of those picks Saints fans and Saints brass look back on and be like, man, we traded a first-round pick for that guy, and it didn't work out. Those happen. Unfortunately, it happened to the Saints. Onyemata was somebody you hoped, I think, that he came back, but you never really felt great about it. Caden Ellis, a nice story, came in there, played his butt off, was really a surprise a year ago. So I kind of set all that up to say you lost players that we know, but you didn't lose irreplaceable players if you do the draft right. And if in free agency, you didn't lose game changers, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's again, Davenport's kind of don't let the door hit you on the way out. Tuttle you missed because Tuttle was representing great value for you last couple of years. Onyemata, it's so funny. It's like when you break up and all of a sudden, that person sucks, right? You might have defended the day before, but now they're not with you anymore. They suck. It's like Onyemata, never the same since he got off the juice. Right? Like, that's immediately where my brain went. Whereas yesterday it might have been a bit more kind and maybe tried to explain it away, but now I'm like, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, maybe not to that level for me, but to the point, I didn't know he was going to get that much money. That's a big number. I mean, what'd you say guaranteed? 20-something?
24.5 guaranteed over
number.
The first 2 years. Yeah. No, I mean, they paid David Onyemata and Caden Ellis. Now, Caden Ellis looks like he could still end up maybe being value, but both those guys over what they would have fetched on the open market. Now, some are saying, Jake, that this is all a knock-on effect of the Saints cap games. I'm interested to talk to Nick Underhill about that, as he is on, he is the kind of constant cap defender
he is
of the New Orleans Saints strategy. It's like we talked about the other day in our text group. The truth is probably somewhere a little bit closer to the middle between the extreme of Nick Wright being like, this is why this is the Saints paying the piper, and Nick be like, there's no problem whatsoever, because like it does take some agency out of your hands, right? Like if somebody wants to overvalue a guy and maybe you were willing to overvalue, you kind of can't just because of the raw numbers of the situation. So I'm not saying that it's that the cap is having no impact on this deal or on all these departures, because I think that's fair to say. But I don't think it's maybe as doomsday as the opposite of the Underhill side would argue. I will say this, dude. This is so weird how the world works, right? If you think back in 2021, Ryan Nielsen was supposed to be the LSU defensive coordinator, right?
Yep.
Sean Payton blocks him. LSU ends up going with Durante Jones. This leads to Ryan Nielsen going back to Sean Payton, only for Sean to peace out a year later, which then gets Dennis Allen hired, which then means, Jake, that Ryan Nielsen can never become the true defensive coordinator, which means he has to go elsewhere to find his fate, which sends him to Atlanta, which then has him raid your kitchen cabinet for your defensive lineman. I mean, screw you, Sean Payton. Blocked him from LSU, forced him out the doors, and then you bailed, and then because you pushed for Allen to get hired, it forces him to Atlanta. Like, screw that, man. Sean Payton's knock-on ripple effects, just taking a lot of talent and brain drain out of the New Orleans Saints organization.
You just had a real Ace Ventura, Finkel as Einhorn, Finkel. But I agree with you as you're drawing the lines there. I mean, the ripple effects are pretty wild, and I'm surprised Sean Payton didn't come get him and as his defensive coordinator, because it just feels like that would have been a Sean Payton move. So it is a lot of movement. There's a lot of pieces that left the Saints. We'll see what they bring in. They've restructured a lot of contracts to be able to bring pieces in again, players that you like. I mean, of the losses, I would probably say Caden Ellis is the one.
Caden Ellis is the one that sucks.
Now, like the depth piece of it, Anyamata and Shai Tuttle, like that. Yeah, exactly. So, like, you have pieces in that room. Defensive tackle, it's bare bones.
Yeah.
And so what can you do at that position? You're going to bring in at least one vet. Now, the level of that vet, we don't know yet, but you're certainly going to draft. With 29 or 40 will be a defensive tackle. Yeah. One of those picks is going to be a defensive tackle. So you have plans for it. I'm interested to see what vet they bring in. Also, you know what? You need Peyton Turner to step up.
Yeah,
like
big time.
In the losses that you just had, because he's a guy that can play inside and out, more out than in, but he can play both. Hey, bud, you're a first-round pick.
Yep.
Get on the field, show your worth, and help us out.
Yeah, right now the only name left on the interior that you would recognize is Malcolm Roach, and he's a restricted free agent. So technically not even under contract right now. So they got a lot of work to do just building out that room, like Jake said, from pure depth perspective. But you know what, Jake, in this time of chaos, betrayal, where everybody's leaving, there's one man who's chosen to stay the course. Jameis, more like Stamus, as James Winston sticking around New Orleans. All right, look, but let's go to break. And when we get back, we can look at what the D-line looks like with these departures. Let's get back to the Saints talk, NFL free agency talk. So who's left on the D-line after the exodus from yesterday? You have Cam Jordan still. You have Carl Granderson, who's been really playing very well and getting better, and I feel like they're going to be relying on Granderson to take on a bigger role this year. You have Tano Passanio, who's been solid. I mean, nothing.
He's been solid.
He's like a good piece. That's the type of pieces that you're going to need to fill this D-line out with. You have Peyton Turner, who, like Jake said, there's a ton relying on him stepping up. And then you got Malcolm Roach as a restricted free agent. Jabari Zuniga is still under contract, but as you're going to see, this is where it kind of starts to, you're like, who? Kentavious Street, but he's an unrestricted free agent. Albert Huggins, restricted free agent. And then Prince Emili. So as you can see, you got to build that. You got to go to free agency, and you got to go to the draft. So if you're already someone who had Brian Breesy going to the Saints, the Clemson interior defensive tackle, Jake at 29, it would seem like that play is now stronger than ever.
It was strong. Even if you brought one of the pieces back that you lost, it still felt like that's where you were going to go. There's some really good defensive tackles in this draft. I wouldn't say it's a deep position, but you can, I still think, get one at 29. You're not going to get the pick of the litter there, but you're going to be able to go out there and get a really good player. So I think 29 defensive tackle is not sexy. Nobody likes to see defensive tackle. And if it's not, the tackle from Clemson that you're talking about, you're probably not going to know who he is just off his name alone.
Yeah.
So you have to realize that's, the situation that you're going to fall in. You just have to hope they don't try to be the smartest guy in the room and select an edge guy from Houston or somewhere that you've never heard of that hasn't worked out yet.
So other names to potentially look out for, this could be at 29 or 41.
29, 40, right?
40. Okay, yeah. That's why I hesitated. I couldn't remember if it was 40 or 41. There's also Clemson defensive end Miles Murphy,
who I think will be gone by that point.
Yeah, and I think isn't Iowa's Lucas Van Ness also ranked above that? Georgia Tech has a defensive end, Keon White. Is the name to look out for?
I think he, at the Senior Bowl, I think he probably played himself before 29.
Then you got Pitt defensive tackle, Kalijah Cansey.
Star of the Combine.
And USC defensive tackle, Tuli Tuipulotu, which I don't remember seeing any defensive tackle on USC that I thought was particularly impressive. Or
a defender.
If I think back to looking at that front seven, I'm like, did I miss something? But who knows? I mean, where were you against Utah, Tuli? I don't know. Either way, though, there's going to be new faces, young faces in this Saints defensive line, and Cam Jordan's going to have to be the Gandalf to all these little new hobbits, kind of showing them the way. But that has to be priority number one for the Saints, as it looks like quarterback is now taken care of. Like, you not only got Derek Carr, but if you missed it yesterday, Jameis Winston is going to be back against all odds. Would have never guessed it. Back with the New Orleans Saints. 1 year, $4 million. Frees up the cap hit significantly. He has incentives that could potentially push him to $8 million. And, I mean, if you're Jameis Winston, it's going to feel pretty good. I mean, I know this is not all played out like you wanted to, but what'd you make, $12 or $16 million last year?
Yeah.
And you kind of experience, being a backup, it's frustrating from a competitive standpoint, but, like, I feel great, kind of. So you're going to pay me $4 million? And at some point, Derek Carr will probably miss time, and I'll get an opportunity to go. Like, it's not a bad life, the life of a veteran backup quarterback.
No, it's not. We need to have some of those backup quarterbacks that we know on the show. I mean, I know we have Flynn. He spent his time as a backup, and the way he talks about it, and the mindset that you have to have, and you always have to stay ready. That's what you look for if you're the Saints and you're finding your backup quarterback. Like, you have to have a certain guy, and that tells me that Jameis did the right things last year when Andy was starting and he was on the bench. That tells me that he wasn't someone that wasn't engaged with the team. That tells me he was somebody that was there, game planning, ready to go, helped Andy when he came off the sideline, because you have to be that in the NFL. So that's actually really good. And we thought that about him. It's not like we didn't think him, but that just confirms what we thought of him last year. So, it's a really nice backup quarterback to have in the NFL. No disrespect to, I always throw this name out there. I feel bad. He's made more money than will ever make, Chase Daniel.
Yeah.
Like, if you have your starter go down and you got either Jameis Winston or Chase Daniel coming in, which one would you rather have?
You'd rather have Jameis. I mean, the ceiling is definitely higher on Jameis.
It's higher, yes.
Now, talking to Aaron Murray about Chase Daniel, because he actually was stuck behind Chase Daniel, both in Philly and the Chiefs. He was just talking about how Chase Daniel is the literal paragon of what you were talking about a little bit ago, in that, like, nobody has played the backup role better. Like, he already has the film cut up for the starting quarterbacks. Like, he has all the
but also when you go in, like, there has to be like
when
a
he goes
high
in,
ceiling.
when he goes in, he's not as good as Jameis Winston. Is what I'm saying.
Look, short kings stay together. I get it.
Yeah, I'm saying how Chase Daniel, though, is holding down so long is because, like, he accepted that backup role very early on, and he perfected being the backup. Right, like, Jameis still, I think, probably, if he gets the opportunity, would like to play again. But like, to Jake's point, he's a higher ceiling than.
Typically you don't have someone with that high of a ceiling.
For 5,000 yards not that long ago, and all the physical potential, was like a #1 overall pick. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of times you have someone that is a journeyman that's kind of always been the backup, never really had his time as a starter. and is a good back and does all those things that you're talking about, or you have a young player that you're excited about, maybe a third-round pick that you feel like, man, yeah, if he gets his right opportunities. And so to have someone that has the stats and the resume that he has as a backup, I mean, it's very valuable.
And then, and like you alluded to, like Jameis, we all knew about his work ethic and his attitude, which seemed to be great. But I did find it very funny when I brought that up to my old man one time, and he's like, "Oh, you think? Yeah, I'd be pretty nice too if I was getting paid $12 million to hang out." Like, I'm like, okay, that's kind of a fair point. That's kind of a fair point. Like, can't be too upset if somebody's gonna pay you 12 or 16 million, whatever he made last season. So, shout out